now.
Okay, great. Well, welcome to the podcast with Ultimate Athlete Concepts. Joseph Johnson here, as always. And today I'm joined with Dr. Peter Smolianov and Jed Smith, co-authors of Fringe, Methodologies in High Performance and Health. It's a book we released last year and gotten good reception on it. And it's an area that we don't get a lot of talk about, really, like, what's going on in the fringe now in the world, different places where they're using, newer methodologies in a range of areas. So I don't want to kind of waste time, filling in on that stuff. I want to stick to the meat of this, which is the approach that you guys took to this material, and also your backgrounds, like how did this come together? Because this is a unique idea, one that had not been done, really. I didn't see that anywhere else. And that was what my interest was in publishing the book. So welcome, guys. Thank you very much for joining me on this. It's great to have both of you. So let's start from kind of the genesis of this. Jed, you and I met a number of years ago at the Central Virginia Sports Seminar, and we chatted about a couple of different things in this area, and we both had a shared interest in what the Soviet, sports system had been doing during the Cold War, and then a little after that too. What was the evolution of for you coming to this process? What's your background, and then how did you get to this place of wanting to do this book?
Yeah, well, I guess my background, I'm a strength and conditioning coach. I've been a professional strength and conditioning coach now for about 25 years. I've been at UNI going into my 16th season at University of Northern Iowa. My job is interesting at University of Northern Iowa because I'm not just a strength and conditioning coach. I instruct exercise sports science. We have an exercise science program where we develop professional strength and conditioning coaches. We have a grad program. So I oversee all the development of all the athletes, but then also the development of our students who are to be professional strength coaches. So I've been picking away at my doctorate's degree at University of Northern Iowa. Here, it's going a little bit slower than I would have liked as a strength and conditioning coach. You got to put a lot of hours in, but then on top of that, Dr. Smolianov has a way of keeping you busy, and we work on a lot of projects that actually slowed my process down, but I don't regret it for a minute. In fact, Dr. Smolianov and I have developed a great friendship here, and it really started with I was writing a paper on the high performance model of sport management, and I had some questions. I shot out an email to, and Dr. Smolianov is a lot of what I was reading was written by Dr. Smolianov. So here I'm like, yeah, I doubt this guy will even respond to me, but I looked through the internet, found out, his email address and whatnot. And I'm like, I'm going to ask him this question. I don't even remember what the question was. It was a while ago. It really isn't that important. But I shot him this email, and then Peter responds and says, "Hey, let's Skype, and let's just Skype and we'll talk about it." So we Skype. We're kind of going over whatever the question I had was, and he goes, "Send me your paper. Just send me the paper." I said, "Okay." Well, I sent him. I email him the paper, and he emails me back, and he really liked the paper. And he said, "Let's Skype again. There's some things here that I wasn't familiar with, and I think are very interesting. Let's Skype again." So we Skyped again, and he's like, "Let's publish this." So that actual came out in the Sport Journal, the article in 2015, I believe, Peter. And that was our first published work. And to be honest with you, what happened is we had some more meetings, and it's like, let's put together a series of 4 articles. I don't know if you remember this, Peter, but I actually was looking through my notes, and we had 4 distinct articles that we were going to write. So we got on article number 2, and article number 2, this is funny. And Peter, you probably don't know this part of this story at all, but you shamed me into working really hard on article number 2. So article number 2, Peter keeps, emailing me, and he goes, "Hey, I'm pretty far on this. I got this done. What do you got?" And I was like, "Well, not that much, And then I emailed him back, and we kept going back and forth. He's like, "I'd like to see what you got." I'm like, "I don't have that much." And here he has about 125 pages, typed on article number 2, and I got like a half a page. Okay, he doesn't even know this,
Right?
And he goes, "Whatever you got," he goes, "I want to see it. Whatever you got." And he's sent me, his 125 pages. And I shoot him this like half page, and I was like, "Oh my gosh," I'm just like embarrassed. And so then what ended up happening is I plugged away and hammered out my share and really got after it, because I was like, I got to, and so, and then Peter's like, we really got a book here. And so that's really how article 2 ended up becoming a book.
Yeah, and I was absolutely sure it's going to be a good book, because this article that was in a sport journal, it was the most read article, at least at my university. I was the most read author that year, thanks to that article. So that article was an overview from a big picture, and then from that big picture, we narrowed down the organizational aspects of high performance management into a specific athlete focused areas of general fitness and sport specific training, then which includes strength training and endurance, coordination, stretching, the psychological aspects of it, medical services, and diet. And then, so these are these are the more specific, more narrow areas that we focused in the book, as opposed to the article that outlined the broad concept. So it was a very natural process.
And that article really, in its high performance, what is, I can't remember the exact title, high performance sport management.
Yeah, we looked at how professional and Olympic sport managed high performance, history of it, and then how it came to the United States, and specifically how it is now becoming part of university system in the United States. Mm-hmm. And that was the new thing that a lot of readers were very curious about. That's why it was so widely read all over the internet. So that was the article. And then in the book we outlined these key organizational points, but then we went more into details of all the new things that have been happening. But what's interesting is that the more we look at more things, the more we have to reconsider the well-forgotten practices of 1970s and 1980s, which were the times of the most I'd say the most intense development of high performance in history so far, in history of the human world, because of the Cold War and because of the intense competition between the West and the East. Mm-hmm. And this sports arms race was the reason why why high performance developed so fast and so in such a sophisticated ways, both in the West, particularly in the United States, and in the East, in the Soviet Union, East Germany, and other Eastern Bloc countries. So yeah.
Yeah, and I recommend, Yosef, to any of the listeners out there, to the article is High Performance Model of Sports Management. It's in the Sport Journal. If you it's open source, which is great, so anyone can pick it up and read it. You can get online and Google our names, Smith, Smolianov, and the High Performance Model of Sports Management, or High Performance Sport, and that initial article will pop up. And it's really it was interesting because it really painted a picture in a unique way that hadn't been done in the West before, and it really got viral. It really did. In fact, I've had calls with from military organizations, believe it or not, even the Navy SEALs, on the management portion of that, to Division I colleges, fire departments, you name it, on this, and I'm sure Peter as well. It really took off because people were able to look in a different way on how you organize and structure for elite high-level performance in a way that really maybe hasn't been studied to that level in the U.S. at that particular time.
I think it could be some parts of this concept. They have been studied in similar detail, but what's different about this work is that it integrates parts that in the past have been studied separately, and
that's a better way to put it.
Yeah, but at the same time, this work skips the common knowledge and the obvious, and we go beyond, straight away we go beyond the known and many times discussed. We go into new things that are being done now. And this is what is exciting about this work, is that we provide kind of a build up. We provide the kind of the icing for the cake that all other traditional textbooks are giving students and sports scientists and the coaches, and we are spending all our time on trying to detect the new things that are emerging. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we're doing it in an integrated way, so that you always can see the big picture and how these different elements fit within the big picture of preparing any athlete.
Mm-hmm. So Peter, if you would give a quick background for yourself too. So I know that you're originally from Moscow, I believe.
Yeah.
And you kind of have an interesting background, because you weren't like during the 70s and 80s, like you mentioned, that was not the time of your education. It was a little bit later, I believe.
No. I was going through athlete development system and the special sports school and university studies, school studies, and in 70s and 80s. So I happened to experience the very peak of the Soviet sport development.
As an athlete in sports school.
As an athlete. So then you did you leave the Soviet Union like right when it fell apart, or was it
right? Yes, right when it was destroyed. I left it.
Okay, so because
I would say it was time when so many sports specialists from former Eastern Bloc have been attracted to Western countries,
right?
For two reasons. One is because they could freely leave at that time, and they were invited to contribute to development of different sport teams. I went to Australia. Australia, as we know, went to East Germany and other Eastern European countries to draw on their experiences, on their concepts, on system structures, but also they employed a lot of sports specialists, coaches and sports scientists in preparation for the Sydney Olympic Games, and they started doing this. At the time of the previous Olympic Games, or even before the Atlanta Games in '96. They started to preparing for Sydney Olympic Games that took place in 2000.
Yeah.
So before leading to 2000, I was in Australia for 10 years, but I was part of the team of coaches, sports scientists, and administrators who prepared some of the most successful Olympic Games from organizational part, as it was appointed by International Olympic Committee, but also preparing the actual teams of athletes, and it was done in taking some of the best practices of both Western and Eastern countries. So
and a note there is Australia really came on the scene and advanced very rapidly with that move to go and recruit and bring in these Soviet sports scientists and coaches and administrators to develop that structure. Peter was part of that team, and it's pretty amazing how Australia evolved in the world of Olympic sport.
It's kind of the catapult a little bit, I think, because as you both know, I'm familiar with a lot of the former Soviet Union coaches and scientists, and Dr. Bereshansky, he was good friends with Carmela Bosco, so he went to Rome right after the Cold War was ended. Dr. Bondarchuk left. I think he originally went to Kuwait and then Portugal, and then he came to Canada eventually. And Dr. Vladimir Isurin went to the Wingate Institute in Israel. He's still there. So they scattered all over, but Australia seemed to have a more keen interest in the former Soviet scientists, because it seemed like a higher number went there. There's a couple different ones that I saw that had went to Australia. It seemed to kind of be like the catalyst for them, because their science now, I would say, is disproportionately much more sophisticated than their population. Like
Australia is phenomenal.
It's way
absolutely.
It's funny. Like you can see the Soviet influence there too, because a lot of the things that they're looking at or that they're working in were reminiscent of what you would have seen in the Soviet Union as it was coming along at that time. So Peter, you also gained education outside of the Soviet Union too. So you were educated there and outside the Soviet Union. So you got a different perspective. And I if you would, because I say this to people. I just did a podcast the other day where I talk about the sports science system in the United States, and there isn't one. Is basically the crux of it. It's not a system.
Well, and I'll tell you, it's a lot less structured. That's the system that I grew up in, and there's very organized youth sports, maybe not to the level of the education of the coaches, and so you got a lot of youth that are jumping in, and it's not systemized. And I grew up in that system and played sports collegiately, and I coach collegiately, and we have a lot of participation. There's the work ethic and the drive. There's some good things going, maybe not as structured, systemized, and education based, which we're evolving. That's the movement. We're moving that direction.
I think we're moving it's leaning in that direction now. But like as you know, Dr. Smolianov, there was at the University of Kiev, there was like 700 scientists all working on this issue. And Moscow, I believe there was more, from what I understood from Dr. Bereshensky. So that tells you, like here, it's not a national focus. Like, we don't have like funding, if you will. We're not going out trying to get the best and brightest people to work in, a specific sports field necessarily. We don't have that. And I don't know if that would even be possible. It's because of the communist kind of regime. You're able to do things like that, where I don't know that, that would even be, you could create something, but it wouldn't be on the, I don't think it could be, I don't think that the scale that the Soviets did could be replicated in a normal, Western kind of, situation or economy. And that's different. Dr. Smolianov, could you comment on that? Like, the differences between the way the Soviets looked at things and then the way that you found in the United States?
Well, it's centralization versus decentralization. It is kind of top to bottom drive in the Soviet Union, now in China, as opposed to bottom up. So it's a completely different organizational system.
That
On the macro level, on the meso level, you can see quite a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
And on the micro level, how athletes are managed. there is only one optimal way. So it's very often it's the same. Whoever gets it right first, has better results, but the result is copied straight away. Within several years, we know all around the world how Americans are doing it very well, and then how Chinese or Russians are doing it. So what we're doing in our work, we are revealing this.
That's where I was going to go. Yep.
Revealing these high performance methods that are currently only used by elite athletes. We're trying to bring it to general public, to go to if not to recreational athletes, to at least to those who are amateur athletes, not professional athletes. And that's the fun, and that's probably the most satisfying and exciting thing for me in doing this work.
Yeah, and Yosef, one benefit on the West and a capitalistic approach is there's a lot of fringe methodologies, and that's the title of our book, Fringe Methodologies in High Performance Sport and Health, and or Performance and Health. The idea here is there's always new evolutions that come out, and somebody has to try them. And in the West, there's always, people are competing just like all over the world, and they're trying to find out what is the best, what is the latest, what is something new that gives me a slight edge and a competitive edge. In the West, it's more than a competitive edge. There are many individuals who are trying to evolve methodologies to try to make money, and so that's in their approach. Yeah. So you're gonna see new things evolving in both systems, in all systems, and so what we're trying to do is capture, regardless where you're from. If you're in China, if you're somewhere in Europe, it doesn't matter. United States, South America, Australia. What are people doing to evolve to get a competitive edge? What is best practice? Yeah. And what evidence supports the use? Is it safe? Is there is there merit to it? Yeah. And so really what Peter and I have found, we have a lot of common ground, and why we enjoy each other is we've both been in search. Myself is trying to get my athletes a competitive advantage ever since I started coaching and seeking knowledge. Before I started coaching, as when I was an athlete, going out and seeking what's going to help me have an advantage. and till now is just trying to help our athletes. Peter is in the same world, and so when we started discussing, we've really, it's brought me all over the world to just try to find, those fringe methodologies to help the athletes I coach. And Peter, in being a sports scientist and prior to that being an athlete and coach, the same thing. So we have the same interests, and we got together on initially an article, and article 2 became a book.
Well, here's what I like about what you guys did, and this is just from my personal point of view. Back in 1990, I didn't publish, but you guys probably Rick Bruner and Ben Kabachnik, and they did a little book they called Soviet Methods in Recovery or something like that, and it's not published anymore. And it kind of elucidated a lot of the cutting edge things that they had been doing over there at that time. It was like right at the end of the Cold War, and it was kind of putting those things together. And it was interesting. I still get people emailing me about it to this day. They'd like to find that book. Here's what's interesting to me, or I think what I like is this book is that 2.0. It's now taking that and saying, okay, look, we got new stuff. This is evolved. And what I like about what you guys are doing, and I think it's really important in the American or United States market, is that, as you said, there's a lot of things out there. In a capitalist economy, you're probably going to see more things come to the market because everybody's trying to see what might be profitable,
right,
or be a good business. The problem is, and I think that's good because it attracts a lot of participants, and then we got to sift through them.
There's
and
snake oil. There's snake oil.
So exactly. Yeah. So what I like about it is, and I tell this to people all the time, the difference in the Soviet Union, there was no a motivation for profit. So you really had to bring the real thing because you weren't getting rich. You were only validated by the hard science or by,
it's the output.
It was like, does it work or not? And they'd sniff out BS way faster for that reason, right?
Absolutely.
So what I like about this book, The Fringe Methodologies, is that this is your kind of your litmus, if you want to call it a litmus test or a BS detector. Absolutely. Here's things that we know are there's a lot of things that people call fringe. That's an easy word to use, right? But has it been reviewed? Has it been scrutinized by someone of any, significance? Because here's the reality. You and I both know, and Peter, I'm sure you do too, is that there's things that pro teams are doing that are useless or are not valuable, absolutely, right? Or colleges that are useless, and they think it's cutting edge, but it hasn't been scrutinized. So what I love about this is that you guys have gone out and looked at, is this researched? Is it peer reviewed? Has it been used in practice? Has it been validated in practice? You know what I mean? It's not just pie in the sky type of stuff. It's bleeding edge, but proven. And these are things that you can bring into your training practice, if you will, now. This is the real thing. So because the average consumer, even someone with a degree in the field, they're not sure. Is this really cutting edge? I don't know. Or am I being sold a bill of goods? We see this happen a lot with certain different, especially now with monitoring. You're starting to see a lot of technology stuff there, and you're like, does this work or not? I don't know. Or is it giving me you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've observed a lot of people that have done that. So if you guys would, either one of you pick up on this. Talk to me about how you brought this to bear, deciding what was legitimate and what we probably.
I think it's important to outline the process. The process starts with Jed's coaches. He gathers coaches and asks them to indicate what are the methods that they've heard about or they're starting to use, and we're making a list of them every year, now twice a year, and we try to search for all possible publications about these methods, what has been done to ideally experimentally test these methods through scientific research, or any other possible ways to validate the what is being done. And this is and then we write up a section on this new method, and we then make our recommendations only based on objective evidence of effectiveness of this method. So this is our process. And again, we are trying to cover by moving ahead. We're not going into a one specific area only, whether it's your strength enhancement or your endurance enhancement, or it's your psychological mental work. We are trying to cover all key aspects. This is the unique, I think, a unique concept that we're trying to move ahead with the current most innovative methods, validating them, but we're trying to ensure them across the key important areas of preparation.
Yeah. Pillars, the pillars that surround that. In the high performance model, you have the athlete, which is the most important. And
Right.
What are the pillars that surround the development of that athlete? So, as far as, strength training, nutrition, the medical side, recovery methods, the psychology, what goes into that athlete, the key pillars that you can plug into the athlete that creates elite performance. And so what we're doing is, because things are like you say, Joseph, that things are popping up all the time. Some things are valid, some things are not. We're trying to sift through and then do the investigation of what do we know? What can we find out? What has been done when we look at empirical evidence? Empirical evidence, that's got to guide you as a practitioner. And so what does the empirical evidence say? Has it been peer-reviewed research on it? Okay. What about time tested? So what is the history? How long has this been around? Who's used it? And what level of success has been achieved using that method? So there's multiple ways that empirical evidence can be used, and we're sifting through that, and again, making the recommendations, because you only have so much time as an athlete and as a coach. And we want to create a good return on investment of time, because you can spin your wheels and go all over the place and not really improve. So these are the way why we've put this together as a resource to help coaches, managers and sports systems and athletes, as well as just the general population, it's infinite information online to what could I do, what could be unhealthy, healthy, and what could actually I use to help myself.
Yeah. So the only subjectivity that I'm trying to bring to this work is in the choice of the methods, and in my recollection of very well forgotten methods that have been used but have not been revealed yet. For example, we've been talking at our most recent conference, we've been talking about with a Greek coach,
Christos Iakovou. Yeah.
With Christos, and we've been talking about Alexeyev, who is still the most successful weightlifter in history of Olympic weightlifting, right, Jed?
Yeah. Vasily Alexeyev, you're very familiar with him.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Christos reminded us in our conversation about his personal training methods with Alexeyev, and I said, yes, I remember this was done. Plus, I remember something else. Like we remembered, for example, that he would bring weights into the water, into the river, and lift weights. No one was shown this. No one talked about it. No one was allowed to see this. we are going to now, with Jeff, hopefully experimentally test this method again in the new conditions, lifting heavy weights in the water, and see how new technology, new knowledge could advance what was done in 1970s, 1980s to win most of Olympic medals that Alexeyev was doing. So this is just an example of where our subjectivity comes into this. But we're trying to dig out some methods that are new and well forgotten old, and then we are testing them in the new conditions and then describing them in more detail.
Well, this is interesting for me, guys, because my background has been with what the Soviets did, starting in 1994. So it's been 26 years for me in this area of studying this and being around a lot of the great Soviet scientists and coaches. And what I've noticed is that where the Soviets left off in 1990, 91 is still probably 30 years ahead of where we might be at in some senses, because there's a lot of things that the Soviets were doing that we still haven't adopted, or we don't have knowledge of. There was a lot of different things that they used in different areas. And one of the things I think that would also be interesting for the listener and the reader of the book is that, at that time, the Soviets would have a group of scientists around the athlete. So he had a specialist in each area, his coach, then a biomechanist, someone else, maybe a specialist in nutrition, a psychology expert. All of the different things were all around that athlete. And so the coach could go to each one of those specialists and say, hey, here's what the issue is. What do we do about it? So I'll give you a quick anecdote. Like Dr. Bondarchuk, with his hammer throwers, he said if he had a problem in biomechanics, he would go talk to Dr. Donskoy and say, okay, here's what the issue is. What do we do with this? And it was kind of a really great model for, the coach who's very competent. He has a PhD. He's not an amateur. But he's going to experts in their narrow areas to kind of bring all of that information to bear in the improvement of that one athlete. Mm-hmm. And I think like this project is kind of reminiscent of that. It's, where you're looking at all of what's the bleeding edge in each area, and let's bring them all together under one roof in a validated way that can be used by the same athlete, so that he ensures, he's on the cutting edge in every area, not just one area, but all of them.
That's the model.
I think the most important concept, athlete-centered concept that was put in place in Eastern Bloc countries during the Cold War, that spreads around the world now, and beyond sport. It's going beyond sport. It goes into business and many other areas of our socioeconomic and technical development, is this group of multi-science experts that are involved in the development of a particular phenomenon for specific objectives, winning objectives and health objectives, where the key objectives were every team in the Soviet Union, every team had a group of there's a medical doctor first of all, then sports scientist. If there's a technical sport, there's an engineer usually part of this group, and this group of they also had a unique role called doctor coach. It's almost dead now. It disappeared from all over the world. It was in place in the Soviet Union. This education was provided in Estonia, in one of the oldest universities in Europe, Tartu, University of Tartu in Estonia. And you would receive a degree as a general doctor, as a physician, but also a sport-specific coach. So I was invited to go there for some, it's a pity I didn't go. There was a specialization in fencing, even in modern pentathlon. In other words, you would get a degree as a doctor and at the same as a coach specifically in modern pentathlon. So you would study medical science, but also sport-specific disciplines of sports science and pedagogy in order to service them a team of athletes in this specific sport. Now you would then as a specialist in medicine and in sports specific coaching and science, you would draw into this team. You would attract different specialists, and you would be using an engineer or a special medical expert in order to advance the team and provide and prolong competitive career of every team member, keeping in mind that so much has already been invested in the athlete who is on the team. So every additional year of competing is huge return on investment and it's a huge loss if you lose an athlete because of the injury or so that concept is probably the most useful concept that we are using, because basically we are ensuring that all aspects of athlete development are included in our work, and it's continuously advanced. But this very concept is being adopted now by not only sport industries, even though this sport schools like IMG academies and athletic departments of colleges and universities are also using the same concept, right?
Yeah, and you're seeing that a little bit replicated at the collegiate level now, and at the pro level. You're starting to see more of that. So now you'll see on teams they typically. I have a lot of different colleagues and friends who work in professional sports, and they'll have the medical doctor, not on the level of what you're talking about, but they'll have one in orthopedic. They have someone who's a specialist in psychology. They have a team nutritionist. They have the positions available. I think the only thing that's different is they don't have the high technical knowledge that the Soviets had in their separate areas. I think that's the only place where we're lacking. But the model is there. The approach is, you're starting to see it more now.
Well, we took it at another level at UNI, where our strength and conditioning staff and our athletic training staff is under the exercise science department. So that's unique in that we use all of our professors to really try to incorporate and employ that high performance model, so that we use the expertise of the multiple facets to apply to the athletes, which is kind of what we wrote about in our first article. So
that's what I really appreciate about it. So I want to just, before we sign off, because we don't want to take too long, but I want to just kind of briefly just highlight the sections and the areas that are going to go into. And you guys are already working on a second edition of this, updating the material. But I'm going to just kind of give people a little bit of a plug with that stuff there too. And you have to forgive me because my eyesight's going. So in the book, by the way, just for those who haven't seen it, this is the book, the Fringe Methodologies book that we put out last year together. And in the book, there's an outline, and then you guys go over, like you said, the general fitness stuff, strength training. You talk about periodization, high altitude training, a lot of those different ideas, a lot of things in the psychological area, like the autogenic training, breathing and voice exercises, mindfulness are some of the sections there. The medical stuff in the area of in the more Eastern kind of oriented approaches there. Different things in the area of yoga, prehab, rehab, cupping, injury prevention with exercise and restoration. And you go through the nutrition stuff, a lot of recovery methods. And then kind of you guys bring it back around. You talk about actually some nutrient substances as well, beyond just diet, but different bioactive substances that could be good. What we call supplements here, maybe ergogenics. And then you guys talk a little bit about lifestyle stuff as well, and kind of go through all those different areas. It's very fascinating because it'll bring to bear things that a lot of people didn't know existed, would be my guess, or if they did, for me, I might have known they existed, but I didn't know enough details about them. Like, maybe you'd heard about it, but you don't know, is it valid? I don't know anybody who's done it yet, that kind of thing. Because, as a coach, you'd kind of like to be able to reference someone who's done it or looked into it, well enough. So you guys are moving beyond what you already had in this book. You're already looking at the second edition, working on that. And the material in this one is really great, valuable, and very, very applicable to guys who are in the field at the pro, collegiate, and even at the high school level. They can take things from that as well and apply it to their situation, in all three settings, I believe, and also the Olympic setting as well.
And it never ends, Joseph, because things evolve every single day. And so that's, Peter and I have laughed about this before. We will never end with this project because it's just going to keep coming, and we're going to just keep working on it. We have work to do until we die.
Well, as long as sports holds the place that it does, and it seems to be getting larger. You look at the TV contracts that the different college and pros are signing. It doesn't look like it's going anywhere. It looks like it's growing. I dare say almost exponentially, if that's even possible. It's got such a large importance especially in the United States culture, that you guys are going to be busier than you might expect, because it's not good. And there's always something like, there's a lot of different methods. I mean, like I'm kind of actively kind of taking stock of what's out there, and I'm always amazed at the new things that are on the market. I mean, just one right after the other. And this is a great guide. I'd almost dare say a subtitle to this is, here's your BS guide, so you know what not to,
what not to do and what to do.
What not to do. Here, I'm going to say, I'm going to save you some time, book.
Yeah. No.
I think, if you will, maybe that it's that kind of an idea, a manual, so you don't waste your time. Because I'll tell you, I get calls from people, from all over the country, all over the world, really, and they'll ask me about different things, and I'll tell them, don't waste your time with that. That's already, And I used to do that when I was younger with my mentor, Dr. Yessis. I'd ask him, he goes, no, that's nonsense. He said, they tried that 40 years ago, it didn't work, so I'll just save you the time. And so, I appreciate that, and I know other people do too. So I'm really looking forward with you guys to going through each chapter. So then that's kind of what we want to do here, is go through a series, and we're going to go through all of the different subject matter with both of you in detail, some of the ideas, and then also where are we going with it? Because I think that's even more interesting, is where are you guys going with it? What's up? What's the next thing? What are we looking at that we want to, how we want to evolve this to? So do you guys have any parting thoughts on that as we go to the next step?
No, I'm excited to explore a little bit and see where we go. And my thought on this is to get a little bit more of a personal side to it, where we fill folks in, maybe some stories of, athletes and experiences that we know that can go hand in hand with the knowledge and the science that we bring in the book.
And I should say, I have another small podcast that we do. It's called Cut the Check Podcast, right? And basically the idea is what I tell people is, whatever you're doing with the athlete, the aim should always be able to get the check cut. If he's a professional, it's a paycheck. If he's collegiate, it's a scholarship. If he's an Olympian, it's a medal. But there has to be this tangible result, right? Otherwise, we're spinning our wheels. And that's, I think that's will be the focus for us, is how did this translate into something that the athlete needed? Like what his goal, whatever it was, to get the scholarship, to get drafted, whatever the case is, how did that affect that? And because that's really all that matters. We got to, sometimes I think in the field, sometimes things get off in different directions and they don't come back to the main thing, which is the athlete has to perform better at the thing that they perform at. That's all that matters. Everything else, might be interesting to talk about, but it doesn't matter, and that's what I love. So we're going to be able to take these concepts that you guys lay out and talk about how did they actually affect the athlete's, performance in the area that he performs. What happened? And that, to me, that's what I really love. Is to hear from an experienced coach. What did you do with your athlete that you really saw a great result with? And tell me how you did it. Because that's, and I'm all ears, because I want to hear what you did, that was valuable. So I'm going to be like listening just like anybody else, because I'd love to hear the anecdotes as well and see how I can apply some of those situations to some of the athletes that I work with as well.
Okay, look forward to.
I appreciate both of your time, and I'm looking forward to doing this. Now, this is being recorded during the COVID-19 quarantine, so we're hoping to get more of these done here, because we're all kind of locked down. So we're going to be able to get these knocked out, not being on our normal schedule. So we look forward to getting these out to you guys soon, one right after the other. And Peter and Jed, I appreciate both of you taking the time to talk to me about this. And I'm really excited and looking forward to taking this to the next step.
All right. Thanks, Joseph.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Yep,
Thank
you guys
you.
have a great night. Thank you.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Good night. Thank you. Bye.